A one, two, three. Hello there, everybody. Yes, it is just moi. Literally, and I mean literally, as we were about to go live, and just give me 1 second here. Trina, wow, we were talking, and then all of a sudden there was a commotion of sorts. And give me 1 second. Let's see. There we go. Hi, beautiful me. And it's a soul tribe. So while we were waiting, we were chatting, and then there was this emergency. So we need to send her some positive energy. She said that she's been fighting, this real negative energy is the best thing I can say. And what I saw take place while we were talking, wow, it was, like for real. So let's just stop a minute before we go any further, and everyone just focus on Trina. She's got an emergency, and when they're going to have to take someone to get some work, I think, in the emergency room. So I can't really get into it, but yeah. So yeah, Trina, we're just surrounding you, your family, your everything, just with a positive reinforcement. Speak favor over you. That's why it's so important to confess that. Confession always leads to possession. Always. So there we go, everyone. So how is everybody? Good to see you. Speaking favor over us all. We're being service to Trina. That's being service to others. So Bosto, baby. And yeah. Happy anniversary if you got one. Birthday too. Someone says, well, isn't that like acknowledging the year of their, entrapment? Well, I don't know. Kind of depends maybe on what your point of view is. I mean, if this is really the prison, then when I exit out of here, I got to say, had a fucking great time. I mean, I did. If it shows what the genius that I must be, because I came in right when I was at the right age to really enjoy rock and roll. I mean, this was when rock and roll was becoming of its own, and hasn't, it left us about 30 years ago. But wow, what a trip. I mean, what a trip. So, I mean, if that's the case, then I got the last laugh on this one, because I had a great time. Having a great time. Not to say it didn't have its challenges, but hey, I used to be a runner, ran 10 miles every day. I liked the high. It was a time of deep meditation while you're running. And if those of you who run or have run, you know that when those endorphins start dumping, it'll take you spiritually to a place. And so, yeah, I guess it's like, the benefit I got from the pain. And yeah, near the end, when the knees started going, but hey, it was all well worth it. So how's everyone in the chat room? Hello, Julie Ann. What's happening? Jules, in your book that you got, the one with the was that the Oracle of Opal? Is that what it is? Opal, I think. It's interesting. It went out, and that is a powerful book. It really is. What a find. I mean, there's a lot to this. We'll get into it a little bit more. Like I said, I had things planned where, I had my lovely co-host, Miss Trina, but yeah, well, You adapt, man. That's what it is. Hey, Nina, what's happening, girl? Good to see you. Deborah Sloan. Hello, Julie. Yeah, running is that happy place. It really is. You know, my orthopedic surgeon said, here's the story, Steiger. Either you stop the running or guess what? I'm going to have to get new knees. And I went, okay. I like to keep the OEM, the original equipment from the manufacturer, I don't want to get, off the shelf market products. Hey, skies above, what's happening? Good to see you. Loretta, hello. Divine Empress, William, what's going on? Hey, Susie Q, much love. Hello, Guy and Paul, missed you yesterday. Deborah Sloan, hello. I think I saw Martin and Heidi. I know that David Castle's off to get his tattoo finished, but Rufus is listening. So Rufus, we love you. You pretty puppet dog. There you go. My dog's going to get jealous. Hey, Kaz, much love, dear. Hello, Scott Day. Melanie, good to see you. It's a fantastic day. Hello, Energy Shifter. Sent you an email this morning. Yeah, I can dig that. Yeah, when they start telling you, well, I'm going to have to take this part out and what have you, you're going, why? I mean, when I was growing up, first grade, I was a carrier of strep throat. Never got it myself, but I was, the typhoid Mary in the first grade at Santa Clara Elementary School there in Santa Clara, California. By the way, my classmates was, of all people, Steve Jobs. Yeah. Anyway, didn't know him. Went to the same school. Kind of cool. And anyway, I digress. But my classmates kept falling out. I mean, boom, boom, boom. All of them was strep throat. And they couldn't figure it out. And finally, it got to the point where it was like myself and only 2 or 3 other students, and they'd been sick. So they zeroed in on me, and yeah. And the cure for it, my dad was in the Air Force, so we were living with my grandparents. So we had access to the commissary, the PX, and doctors. And I remember going to Travis Air Force Base twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening, getting a shot of penicillin in the back end. Number one, those of you who may not know about penicillin, it hurts like a mother. I mean, it is a thick stuff, and they jab it into your gluteus maximus. And as a kid, it was traumatizing. I'm just telling you, 6 years old and going through that. And the thing that I remember the most when we got on the Air Force Base, it was always walking in to the hospital, was that smell of alcohol. Military bases and alcohol are synonymous with me, and pain. So anyway, polio shots, I remember those. Yeah. Remember going out, at the elementary school on a Saturday. Yeah, that's right there. 2 lines of tables. I always remember that. Quite interesting. But hospital smells like a Band-Aid to me. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Man, I just remember that. And of course, I was out of school for 2 weeks. But hey, it's part of the journey, right? And yeah, mine is right over here now. My smallpox, Hey, we were the generation that, pioneered the way. Yeah. Hey, Mary wins. I like it when Mary wins because Wayne wins. And Wayne wins all the time. I have great favor on my life. My wife and I, my wife, she says it all the time as well. Got favor. We're always the head, never the tail. We always come out on top, never beneath, and we're always above and not below. That favor, it goes before us, it walks beside us, and it comes behind us. Yeah. It runs to overtake us. That's how I look at it. Hey, Project Skyfalls, what's happening? The envoy of the dragon. I love that. Doctor's offices, not as much. Yeah, well, that's what hospitals do. Envoy, that's exactly what they do. You figure it's the portal. It's the portal you come in on, and it's the portal they want you to go out on. Say no. I'm going to make my own portal. That's the way I look at it. Interesting, Linda. That is interesting. Why is that generation like your mom? I got the whole thing, but yeah. So again, this is what you call adaptability. Because it's like going on live television and you're going, your co-host, she had to step out. Huh? All right, we got what? Just kill some time. Yeah, like the whole hour. Oh, okay, not a problem. I can do that. Got a lovely group here. I mean, I love it. So, this is a book everyone should really have in your library. The more I read it, the more fascinating I become. I really appreciate, and this is what Trina and I were talking about right literally before we started to come out live. This is probably one of the most, how should I say this, the most literate, plain spoken book on the subject of magic, its implication on us as a species, how magic is perceived as not only on Earth, when we look into the universe, does magic still play a role out there? I mean, is magic something that humans made up? The evidence would say not so. Evidence would point to there appears to be, whether you look at them as immortal, a different species in a different phase, but they do exist. I'm studying like 4 different books right now, and I'm getting into this one, folks. Us in the West, we're ignorant. We're just flat out ignorant because we've allowed the seductive call of materialism and its associated genres to seduce us. I call it the God spell. No matter what it is, it has seduced us. And it's those that on the outside, when they look at us, they mock us because we're not following the path. Bet your ass we're not following that path. Was on that path for way too long. And my point to this, studying the jinn, and I've got the sense that this carries over to the angelics as well, and the divine ones. I don't know if we're dealing with the same species, but perceived at a different point of reality, a different name. We're still working on the third eye. It's like if you're on a road trip, the way to make the road trip always exciting is that you have plenty of pit stops. So, when you think about the names, it's real interesting because if the jinn exist, and I do believe they do, then there is an invisible race right here now. And they've been here a long time, way before we came along. Probably been around for, I don't know. They definitely would be considered immortal. They seem to be having the need to be around our type of energy. Otherwise, if we didn't serve a purpose, or if they didn't find purpose in being, they wouldn't be here. Now, what's interesting is that, particularly in the last 1,500 years, hello, Teresa. How are you doing? Love the show, Friday. It was a great show. That the powers to be could not allow another race of beings to be acknowledged if they were going to have the total control system. And since they could not block them out because they knew they existed way before the religion was ever invented. So what they did, which was so clever, was that they, get this, demonize them. Well, it's much easier that if you're under control, theology, dogma, political point of view, and you are told that that unseen realm, you don't want to mess with it. It's evil. And of course, whole Hollywood wouldn't be Hollywood if it wasn't for the fact that, the Exodus. That was a true story that took place in St. Louis, Missouri. But nevertheless, so we have been so totally brainwashed culturally. It's in our government, it's in our laws, it's in our social culture, it's in everything. And when you make the discovery that, wait a minute, there's another race of beings. Now, they may be long-lived, they may not be immortal. Maybe their length of days is beyond our capacity, inasmuch that the average human lives less than 27,000 days. Man, that's short timing. Short time and big time. One lifetime's not enough. But my point is, when whoever they are, they do exist. And in much of the Middle Eastern culture, they're known as the jinn. Powerful beings. You can get into a contract with them. You can get in a contract with an angel too. Now, hopefully you're mature enough that if you go down that path, that you understand that, in order for a contract, both parties must have reciprocal benefits. Otherwise, it's unbalanced and it's not a contract. You see, I love the conversation. And I just now, when I was looking over there, I haven't read it all, but I just saw it briefly. So, but as I'm finding out, they're not bad. I mean, it's the same thing with angels. I mean, Mahashiach, is an angel of recertifications. they're bad if they have rules, they have structure, they have hierarchy. They seem to have a culture that is well established, and they have great respect for humans. We apparently give an energy to beings like that. The fact that we're in these encasements of these bodies is rather unique. We go through our whole lives never realizing that we're antennas. We're not only broadcasting, but we're also receiving. And because they calcify our pineal glands at a very early age to stop the development, if we were allowed to go through life in a proper course, I think we'd be seeing a lot more of the manifestations that were very obvious 500 years ago, 1,000 years ago, etc. And as I'm learning about the jinn, they don't have a problem working with humans. They don't. I mean, I work with the angels. Like I said, 50 years of Christianity was my initiation. I knew about the angel, saw one, saw a real freaking angel. Quite amazing. And the thing about it was, in that particular congregation, which there was over 1,000 people in it, there was about a dozen other people who saw the same angel I did, standing right up there with Ron Tucker, and magnificent being. I mean, did not have a robe on. Did not. It quite remarkable. It's if the adornment of the creature was a white shimmering two-piece outfit, and at the waist where we would have a belt, he had a girdle that went across, and it was gold. I mean, but the gold was not the type of gold that you would think you would see. It had movement to it, it had form. And wherever Ron Tucker would go, this angel would follow him. Just, yeah. So I've seen them. I've seen them in action. And the reason why I think that they are drawn in religious rituals is that because the energy is, no matter how you want to debate this, it is focused. And it's in tune to a frequency that they're very much akin to. And humans can get into that frequency. You don't need a religious service to do it. Yeah. And this was part of the initiation. I know about these angels. I mean, they're bad sons of bitches too. I mean, the stories of them killing 180,000 men on the battlefield in one night. That was just one angel. I don't know what that scene must have looked like, but it had to be hell on earth. We know of the exploits of Gabriel. Gabriel has human blood on his spirit. Doesn't seem to count against him. He's very well versed in slaying humans, which leads me to believe as well that he probably is very well versed in battle in another plane. But, you know, that's my belief. That's my perception. And that's what I've gained from decades and decades and decades of reading, studying, experiencing, practicing. Yeah. I used to have the belief in the name of Jesus. I was one of those at one time would say, in Jesus' name. I mean, to me, that was like having a badge. And much of my family has been in law enforcement. I've lost members in the line of duty, but the badge was always something to hold their badge. A badge has weight to it, but a badge is a powerful psychic symbol. That badge will immediately stop a person in their tracks. That badge immediately commands respect. That badge stops cars. I mean, it's amazing what that badge does. But my point was that when I found out that the name had been changed to meet something that it was never meant to have been to begin with, well, that kind of unravels the whole thing. And it got to me as I was reading this book last night. It's a great book, one that I'm finding that I enjoy immensely right before I go off into the ether world. But it began for me to think about today. We change everything that we have to fit our modern day perceptions, our beliefs, our customs, our cultures. And that goes with names. Now, if I gave the name Anthony as the formal name, I could say, well, then the subtitle of that would be Tony. Tony would be like Lord. Anthony would be like God. And I wrote this note, keep it right by our nightstand. And I said, old names should be able to be translated into more modern names. For instance, Yeshua should have been Iesus. Iesus is because it has Zeus in it. That's who Jesus is. Still's got Zeus in it. So we have an ancient Greek deity that even goes back further than that. Who knows, Iesus may be Enki. Don't know. Got a sense that may be close on that one because the names mean everything. I mean, if you're into ritual magic, if you're into channeling, which by the way, we're natural channelers. Every holy book, the Bible, the Quran, all of them, we're all channeled. No one knows who really wrote them, but it doesn't matter. And when you think about the aspect that we have this ability to interact with these beings, it's just that sometimes they become more powerful than what we're really taught. And I'm going somewhere in all this because we were talking about the beauty of the divine. And since I have this thing, give me 1 second. It's snowing out. Right now we're having a little heavy band and the thing's going off. The way that these authors, Harrison and Shadrach, have positioned this, it's quite interesting because the names that we use today for the masculine, that is devoid of the feminine, although they'll try to tell you that, well, no, our name, Elohim, doesn't mean one, it means many. Many what? Well, many gods. I thought there was only one God. Well, yeah, but, it's got a lot of names. Why? Well, because it's fractaled. Well, it seems like it adapted its MO from something that already existed, and that is the divine feminine. And isn't it odd that we have always looked at that? See, I'm just reading some of this. So I pulled a little section out of, first of all, the book, because I thought that this was so interesting. All right. So I want to get up here. So when we think about a name, when we talk about the divine, well, what is the divine? I mean, to me, it's kind of like going, well, what is it? I mean, is it feminine? And if it is, because I'll just be candid, most humans, I would say, particularly of the male gender, when you talk about the female, the feminine, well, they immediately got sex on their mind. I mean, they've already painted her, perfect, dimensions. And you're going, but wait a minute. The problem is that even in religion today, they so heavily sexualize the feminine to a point that it's very difficult to ever see an authoritarian position of dignity, majesty. But then it gets to the question, wouldn't it then evolve above just the physical that we have been so ingrained with and seen when we talk the feminine? So I just want to read this because it's so interesting. Talking about name. Through the ages, magical rituals and rites contain many names of power. The language and names, as well as the approach to the relation between the magician and the spiritual realm. And by the way, the magician here is in the feminine tense, not the male, are some of the things that differentiate systems of magic. In our system, we hold to the truthful reality of the various spiritual names and the sacredness of the divine attributes. We don't see those beings as human constructs. We use the sacred names both for their spiritual essence and as a way to improve our connection with the divine. They are more than a means to a material end or a label to various energies in the universe. They are a way to infuse ourselves with the divine, Runaha, and inflame ourselves with illuminating light. Before we delve into the list of the divine names used in this book, we should discuss the view of the divine within this tradition. In our magical philosophy, the divine is that ever-living creative spirit that is experienced as spiritual light. Within magical currents, magic depends on this light. Magic flows when the spark of the divine within the magi becomes aware of or connects with all of the pervading divine sources. The flow of the divine light into the magician charges her with an ecstatic and empowering feeling, unlike anything she may have felt before. The conception of the divine as light isn't primarily an outgrowth of modern New Age thinking, but has been inherited in the writings of ancient mages and mystics for thousands of years. It can be found in the religious and philosophical writings of the ancient Persians and in the Neoplatonists and the Islamic mysticism. The concept of God as light is almost universal. The divine is the light of lights, the real beyond illusions, and the principle before the first principle. The divine has infinite facets, since each facet in and of itself is absolute and infinite. It becomes akin to a deity in and of itself. However, all the facets form a singular whole, representing both a personal and impersonal nature of the Creator. This is similar to each one of us having different roles or states in life. You can be a father or mother, a son or daughter, a brother or sister, joyous or sad, and so forth. In this case, we are talking about a god of war, a god of magic, a strong god, gods, a goddesses of love, the god of thunder, and so on. These can be seen as facets of one divine principle of each powerful being in its own right, and both are correct to a great extent. Keep in mind, though, that the divine as an ever-living isn't a supernatural being that lives in some imaginary place. The ever-living is a being that is the essence of life in and of itself. Therefore, everything that lives is an expression of the ever-living. To understand the ever-living would to be to understand the meaning of life and the cosmos itself. The divine is all existing with no end. Nearness, farness, will, wish, time, above, below, or place. There is no universe as a separate existence. While we call the divine by many names, the divine is the self-named one, and none other than the divine is named. The divine is the first without anything before, and the last without anything after. The divine is visible in all of that is seen, and known clearly in all that is hidden. The divine is in all forms and images without any relation to any appearance. It is easy to fall into the trap of thinking that the divine is infused in us in some way. You hear that a lot in New Age circles, that God is within me. The divine is never in anything. Neither is anything in the divine. Only the divine can see the divine. Only the divine can know the divine by the divine. Only the divine can conceive the divine by the divine. The divine is hidden in oneness and is veiled by the divine being. When the magician is said to be guided by the divine or sent by the divine, what we are saying is that the divine has sent herself from herself for herself and without any cause or means besides herself. She sent her essence from her essence by her essence to her essence. There is no difference between one who sent and her magician who was sent. You are not you, and you, without being you, are she. She is not within you, nor are you in her. You don't exist with an essence and qualities and the attributes, for you never existed. Neither do you exist at all, nor will you ever exist. Without being, your essence is with her and in her. You are not even temporal. Without having any identity, you are her and she is you. Magicians didn't know the divine by making themselves nothing or destroying their egos or trying to rid themselves of their selves. How could a thing that doesn't exist try to get rid of its own existence? The key is to know that the divine exists and none other exists with her. She is now as she has always been. Ultimate magical realization is to see your attributes as the divine attributes, your essence as the divine essence. Without your attributes and essence being either in the divine or out of her, yourself is only the divine being. You are eternal. You never ceased to be, for you never were, since there is only the divine self and essence. Therefore, those divine names or deities of old were to the magicians holy, sacred names by which magic happened, and their awakening, their gnosis, or illumination of the divine states occurred. Initially, the magicians worshiped the divine as a balanced fashion, as a god and a goddess. This balance began to fade with the rise of the Levite priesthood. The goddess became the esoteric doctrine to which the initiates were introduced. Even though few of the occult texts of the 13th century mention the goddess at all, she is hinted at. We notice that in these magical tomes, the name Gilgamesh appears as a divine name or a word of power right next to the Hebrew word, the Elohim. However, Gilgamesh was not a deity in the ancient world. He was a human hero and an historical king of the Uruk and Babylonia. The Arab magicians would not have worshiped him or equated him with other names of the divine. They knew the history of cultures that came before them, for it was that of their ancestors. The important clue is this mystery is that Gilgamesh's fame comes from his epic, the Epic of Gilgamesh and Ishtar. Ishtar was an important, if not the most important, goddess of the ancient world. Hence, an Arabic occult text, Gilgamesh, was in actuality a code word alluding to Ishtar. This is further supported by the flower symbols, eight-pointed star, and many other symbols of the goddess that adorn those texts. While some modern magicians may find this objectionable, we firmly believe that magic in its grassroots was a gender-balanced system of spirituality. It was not the privileged of learned patriarchal scholarly men who women turned more to the earth-based religions as is today. Magic appealed to men and women equally, for it is cosmological, was balanced and natural. From our perspective, the mythological of the gods and the goddess is designed as a vehicle for understanding the essence of their names and facets. The myths gives us insight into what energy to expect, but by no means are they always factual. It is the same as the symbolic depictions of the ancient world. The goddess Ishtar is portrayed as standing over a lion with the scepter of authority in her hand. Now think about that. Who is the lion represented in modern culture today? The Lion of Judah. Yeah. This doesn't mean that an entity looks like this or in this posture exists. It is a symbolic way for us to identify that the feminine facet of the divine has power and dominion. Man, we could just stop on that one right there. Power and dominion. And this has been lost purposely to humanity. Not anymore. The cat's out of the bag. You know, those folks over there with Steiger, man, they're talking about this stuff. Yeah. This kind of power and authority isn't the sole domain of the male or positive facet of the divine. The same goes for many of the myths of the ancient world. This doesn't negate the power inherited in the name as a source of awakening to the divine reality in our lives. In studying the divine names throughout the old text of our traditions, we have also found common linguistics and spiritual roots reflected in the magical rituals and practices. The three common streams are the Assyrian, Hebrew, and Arabic. In occult texts belonging to the 9th and 13th centuries, it was common to mix an assortment of names of the divine from diverse Semitic sources. The conjurations would contain names of power, such as Baal and Gilgamesh, with the various 99 names of Allah and the Hebrew divine names, such as the Elohim, and even Greek names such as Matrodon. The combination and mixture of the different names of the divine or gods and goddesses of old world isn't a mixing of religious dogma. In its philosophy, magic transcends the limitations and barriers of religious thought. This is one of the biggest challenges for newcomers to magic to understand. In the Middle Ages, ancient magicians considered those systems to be conjoined whole that worked well together. Today, seeing the political and social turmoil between Arabs and Jews in the Middle East, people may find the combining of Arabic and Hebrew hard to accept. This is a modern state of affairs and more political than anything. The ancients saw the streams all coming from a single source. This is a great book, folks. And I'll just break it off there. this prayer right here is real interesting because it's these type of things that you begin to go, okay, most people have a natural bias. They'll say, well, this religion is superior to this religion, and you never mix the two together. But you do. They all originated from the same source. And I'll read this thing because I think it's really good. I read it last night and it's rather invigorating, I have to admit. It says, I ask you, O Allah, and you repeat this 3 times, O Allah, O Allah, O Allah, O everlasting eternal being, make me live a good life that I may exist on the shore of the ocean of your love. There is different culture here. For me as a Westerner, I have to really stop and in my mind at the same time reading this, begin to understand that there is a cultural that I don't fully understand. And so I mix it with the culture that I do understand. You understand, understand. We're not understanding anything. We're understanding now. Adore me with charisma and awe before the upper worlds. Well, we study a lot about the upper worlds here, but go show you how far it goes back. Open the eye of my heart, my vision with your light, so that my heart is open to the reception of the mysteries and that it may utter the inner jewels of your protection. Radiate upon me from the ocean of your holy emanations and make it easy for me that I may reach the coast of gentleness. Take me with the gentle taking, that I may find its sweetness the day I meet you, O Latif, O Latif, O Latif. O Divine One, I ask you this with the discharging of the living breath of the breezes of the fragrant of the exhalations of your mysteries and the revelation of the mystery of your name that you have recited for the reception by the thirsty sinners. I wish to delve in your reverence and seek to swim in your mysteries. Love the colorful words in this. Man, I mean, giddy up. O thou who has the greatest name, and he is the greatest, O thou who has no known limits, and he is the most knowing. O ancient one, I ask you by the mystery of your name, and with what your pen has flowed, with what you have inspired Jesus, son of Mary, with what you have confided to Moses upon Mount Sinai, and cried with tongue of ability. I am Allah, El, Allah El, Allah El, Elohim El, Elohim El, Elohim El, by what you have descended upon your prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, hurry with the success of my pursuits and facilitation of my aim, and reveal to me from the world of the kingdom and kingship. Recompense my aim from what is satisfactory to you from ordinations. Reveal to me from the hidden spirits of the kingdom that are endowed from the mystery of your name that unites all names and attributes by which you call yourself in all languages. Praising you are all creatures, O Allah, O ever living, ever being, O best guardian, best champion, O divine one, I ask you to enlist to me the servants of this name, Kahel, for you are capable of all things. So the angel Kahel is another powerful angel. And this name is both on, that has to deal with the Abrahamic foundation. But anyway, I get carried away with this. I know it's powerful stuff. That's all I can say. Not everyone's cup of tea. I understand it. But for those of us who do enjoy it, it's quite invigorating. That's all I know. It's powerful. Again, at some point, we're all going to leave these bodies behind. We're going to dematerialize and rematerialize back into our natural form. So I kind of look at it like this. This is a great opportunity. I love group studies. In fact, once the insanity stops, we ought to begin to form local groups where we can just come together. And whether it's 2 or 3, they used to do this in home studies. Back in the day when, I was leaving the religion, what we found was that the churches didn't hold any more life. It became cold. So we formed home study groups. And it was typically 4 or 5, couples, groups of people from homes. I don't see any reason why we can't do that. I know there's folks in England that live relatively close, I guess, and even here in the Denver area. Of course, that can be a hell of a journey if you live up in Thornton when you have someone that lives down in, let's say, in Douglas County. Let's party like a rock star. I love you, Teresa. But this is how we grow. To be able to have the interaction with a group, maybe we could even do it on Zoom. I mean, private, don't broadcast it. We just do it in private studies, but because there is things that I could gain, no doubt, from those of you as we go. And this book is a fascinating book, folks. The exercises in here, they teach you. So they teach you a lot. By the time you're done with this, you're going to be able to write your own tables. You'll be able to know exactly how that system works. And I think it's pretty cool. I haven't found one of these beings to be threatening. I've never gotten one negative vibe off them, not one. And studying the jinn, the ones I did have, there is an energy to it. It's definitely Solomon's group. Yeah, that is an interesting group of beings, no doubt. We'll probably visit that again. That is one of the heaviest books. I won't say it's dark because I don't like saying it's in that aspect, but they're angels, and those are the divine ones. I think that it's kind of interesting that you really find out. And now that I'm finding out, guess what? Got a sense it was be the jinn. Listen, if you see people who levitate, understand you can't break natural laws unless you're working within those natural laws. As they said, many of them are being held up by these invisibles. They're here. They're around you. They don't stay long if you don't acknowledge them, if you can't really sense them, if you don't call out to them. It seems like if you call out, man, that party line gets going real quick, but there's nothing to fear here. That's what I'm trying to say. I haven't found anything of a negative nature, but that's, just me. Yeah. Did someone get put in timeout? Oh, naughty, naughty. There's some people who can't handle this shit either. Just be straight up with you, man. They're like, I ain't having nothing to do with that. No way, man. And sadly, because they'll go through life, superstitious, and when one of these beings, and they like to bless people. Bless them, whatever word you want to use. They like bringing good surprises. But if you piss them off, they can also bring you just as many bad ones as well. And that's why you don't be afraid of them, You're a badass. So that's all I got to say. Thanks for hitting that like button, everybody. And, this is good stuff. We're going to pick up on it tomorrow. Folks, we're going to get back up into our legal and lawful, because now it's time to understand what is legal and what is lawful. Dealing in the spiritual realm, it's a reflection of this realm. And so if you go half-cocked into the spiritual realm and start summoning spirits that you think are there for your whimsical, materialistic gains and goals, you got a surprise coming. You may find one that will play the game for a little bit, but remember, Before you can leave, you have to pay the bill. The check always comes due. Hey, Big Al, hello, working outside, brother. Wow, okay, because it's snowing mightily here. All right, everybody, this has been fun. It's knowledgeable. And Trina, we love you, dear. We miss you. We're just speaking peace to be upon you and your family, and that the energy will become transmutable into a much more, how shall we say, cohesive energy of peace. Yeah. You know, the peace that surpasses all understanding. May it mount guard. Yeah, exactly. No snow anymore up here in Boulder area. Okay, Mr. Floyd, then that means that it's coming down our pike then. Excellent. That means I have to go out there and remove it. So that's what I'm about to do. All right, folks, much love. The Peace Train. We got the Peace Bus going in, the Magical Mystery Tour for sure. All right, much love to all of you. Thank you. Thank you. Y'all just, y'all are just great. There is a consistent drawing of this. It's like, yeah, got to get meet with the Soul Tribe. You're welcome, Mary Wins, because Mary wins, we all win. I love that, Mary Wins. I tell you, that's a great name. Wayne Wins. Could be a great new thought. There we go. Hey, Susie Q, much love right back at you, darling. And to all the rest of you, thank you for enriching my life and Lynn's life as well. Because y'all, all the time you write me, you always say to give her love, and I do all the time. All right. Much love, everyone. See you tomorrow.